So once again, welcome everyone to the November Speaker Series 2023, our final one of the year. Woohoo! We are thrilled to have you here with us. We would like to thank each and every one of our 2023 sponsors. Without you, this would not be possible. You guys are the real MVPs. We'd love to do great events across Texas and would like to continue our speaker series webinar every month in 2024 as well, just like Courtney mentioned. Let us know if you would like to become a 2024 sponsor, and we'll reach out to you. We have an excellent speaker to close out the year, Paul Giroux. Paul Giroux is here to give us two talks in one shot. And that's going to be No Code, Stitchery, and Splash of Maturity. So I'll hand over to him so that he can introduce himself properly. Paul, over to you.
Saving the worst for the last. So thanks for hosting me, and thanks everyone for taking time to listen to me drone on. I'm going to talk about a couple of things, but first, who am I? So the slide. I'm here representing a couple of things. So my name is Paul Giroux, as mentioned. The best way to communicate with me is through LinkedIn DMs. And there's two things I basically work on. So during the day, I'm like you, I lead innovation, business, and location intelligence at the local utility here, including telecom, so a fiber company. And my passion project, which some of you already know me for, is Maturity, so Slim Jim. But now we've grown that into something else now, which is a Maturity Network. And Maturity Studio is where we host our tools. I'm going to talk to you about two things. So I'm going to put on my GeoGeek hat, and we're going to talk about how to stitch no-code solutions, the Esri solutions in this case, together. It's challenging, I'm sure most of you know. And so I'll give you something I've fallen on. I'd like to share it because I think it could be a solution for others. And then depending on how much time, I'll get into a splash of maturity. So we're going to talk a little bit about geospatial maturity. So let's get started. I'll have a little sip. So the first thing, no-code stitchery. How do you get by on what I call anti-patterns, right? So Esri has their patterns, but we want to do more with that. And so I'm going to appeal to the geogeeks out there. And our business need was we had to digitalize, and we're still doing it. We're just doing user acceptance testing, but we have to digitalize our streetlight reporting process. So we maintain streetlights for the city. That includes dispatching it, maintenance, and insights. And the promise, so you'll see this is me on the left. I'm not really a bot, but the promise is, Esri solutions. They talk about their suite of field apps that transform disparate field activities and processes into a unified workflow, says some marketing genius at Esri, right? So my need is workflow, and that means something a little bit different to us. So basically, we need to do the rightish a thing as we can on ArcGIS Online. And so my first half of my career was in web development. And so I look at web products a little bit differently, maybe in that the solutions I'm providing must be absolutely as clean as possible. They need to be seamless. They need to be nice user experience and a customer experience. And I need to use GIS more than just like, let's just drop another point on a map, please. More importantly, for us in our use case and for the size of our team, there's only a handful of us, is we can have feature layer tire fryers, I call it. So when if you've tried spinning up some solutions, instant apps and stuff, what happens is oftentimes you get this mess of hosted feature layers. And so the problem for me is the ArcGIS suite of apps transforms activities and processes into a unified workflow. Yeah, but it's disparate apps and disparate data, right? And so for me, that's a game over. It's caused all sorts of problems. And so let's get into the problem a little bit. First, we have public reporting. So public reports a streetlight issue. And then dispatch needs to actually like review what's coming in. So some of you are using this pattern. I want to talk to you about this more. And then here, the field work. And so it's saying the slide's not changing. Is this change on you here? I'm looking at the chat. Jordan, are you seeing slide changes?
Yes, we can see them.
Okay, cool. And so the problem I've run into, and maybe you have too, is we want to go no code, but you run into the wall every time you start spinning up an app. So you start with like Survey 123 Web Designer, beautiful, but you need to do a little bit more and then you're constrained, right? So we try all different scenarios that have worked piecemeal in the past in our organization. But for this one, because we have the public involved, clerks involved, and field crews and ourselves maintaining data, we need to really get it to run smoothly. And everybody says, well, we'll just use crowdsource reporter for what we're doing. So you may have also used that. Some of you may be using it now. That was game over for us also. The reason being is, if you go in GeoNet, you'll see me on there complaining, not complaining about the work Esri does. We live and breathe that platform and Microsoft's. It's some of the, as a web developer, some of the things that are missing. So crowdsource reporter is great. We couldn't find proper validation of form field. So crowdsource reporting didn't work for us, right? We needed proper emails, phone numbers, other things. We needed more intelligence to it. And so let's keep digging in. So for the public reporting then, let's break it down. So I'll walk you through some of the issues. It should sound familiar to those that have tried it. And then we're going to get into this like Stitchery, I call it. So for the public reporting I'm a super fan of the web designer for Survey 123. I'm sure most of you are. It works great. The new maps, you're allowed to have your own feature layers in it. You can allow snapping, awesome. Unfortunately for us, which we ran into, and you will too, is with the web designer, you're limited, right? And we needed to do a little bit more. So, you know, with Connect, we needed to do pull data function. We needed to streamline the data entry process for the public, right? To try to make it as intelligent as possible. And so, okay, the web designer tool doesn't necessarily work for us, but let's continue on to the office. So the public here submits their forms. Now we need that data in a format that's a lot easier for a dispatch to review. And in our case, use tools that are already used to, okay? And so with the web designer, you submit and it's sitting in a layer. And then how do they do the work assignments, right? You can do inbox and Survey 123, but our staff aren't comfortable with that. They don't use that right now. They use Workforce. And so she would have to, our clerk would have to basically go into Survey 123, have a look at stuff, and then create a work assignment, okay? So now we're like, yes, there's field maps and apps available through Esri, right? Survey 123, Workforce, so on. But now if she's having to duplicate data, she's creating a work assignment now, okay? Even though it's already been submitted by someone, in this case, the public. Anyhow, so that's the workflow, right? When we're working this kind of like piecemeal approach to things. So finally, she can create it. She creates an assignment, right? And then that gets dispatched to the field, okay? So we have workflow, right? We're passing things along. As you can see, there's some problems. So public submits, office receives it. She creates an assignment. Assignment gets received by the field crews. And what do? They create a record in another layer, right? For maintenance activities, okay? And so for me, yes, you can link apps together, but it's not a unified workflow. It's a piecemeal. There's duct tape. There's like the data is in different places, right? And it becomes difficult, especially for our staff who are just really leveraging some of this technology and just learning it. So now they're having to use all sorts of different things. And so what I'm here to talk about is the solution we found. Some of you may have found this, so there's going to be a poll later. I'm going to want to know if anybody's using this. But through all of these trial and error, what we've landed on, and which is working now, and we're just rolling it out, is you start with ArcGIS workforce project first, step one, okay? And then you can add some fields and extend that with Connect. So you can add some intelligence, for instance, pick a street light, and we can populate the form with data, right, using Survey123 Connect. And then you can publish the web form, and now you have that beautiful form available to the public, okay? So step one is create the project workforce, and then we pump it out and adapt it with Survey123 so that the public have a beautiful form that's usable beyond just dropping a pin. And then finally, we hijack the assignments layer again, and we start adding maintenance fields to that. The reason being is we want workflow to go from start to finish. There's been a problem reported, it's been dispatched, and here's the maintenance done against it. We keep the ID, so we could in time do relationship back to the asset if we wanted to show all the work. But for now, all we're interested in to meet our service level agreements with the city is essentially receive complaints, right, about streetlights and be able to get it out there. Okay. So let's go through this a little bit. So workforce, hopefully some of you are using it. It's a great product. Our GIS team uses it to dispatch people who go take pictures of our assets after capital builds and all sorts of stuff. Okay. And so what you see here, this is the out of the box assignment stuff. And then what we're able to do with the assignments is we added public fields. So these are the fields to collect the information on the public form. And just basic stuff like who do we call back if we can't find this pole that they're reporting, right? Even though they've selected one. Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. And then assignments, add fields for the form, add fields for maintenance, okay? And so what happens here is we've been able to streamline our process in a way that all of our data is in one place. Okay, and then we can hang the apps off of that in a way without doing app linking and other things. So Stitchery, here's some of the things, and I'm hoping some of you are getting some value from this. So how did we kind of get the glue to work in the Esri No Code way of doing things is with Survey123 Connect, you have to figure out what are those fields that workforce needs, right? Workforce assignments, assignment types. So there's a schema in there. And some of these fields are required. So what we did is one here, you'll notice there's assignment type here. And there's also some fields we added for the public. So we know location, what street light. So we're using pull data functions, which is really cool to be able to get the streetlight number off the underlying streetlight that they click on. And then is all of these hidden fields. So this is the workforce hack. This is how you can push a survey form into a workforce assignment, okay? Is knowing what the required fields are. And so status, for instance, we set it to 0, priority set to 0, and there's some other fields that we're actually jacking data into, okay? So this is all happening when we publish the web form. This happens on the web form, and if there's a little bit of time, I can actually show the form if anybody's interested. But basically, this is the first part of the Stitchery, is the assignment layer. Then we added some fields, and then in Survey123 Connect, we were able to hijack things by making sure we add the required stuff. And another thing we stumbled, like a roadblock we had to stumble over, basically, was the assignment types. They're not using codes you're used to in domains, they're using global IDs. And so you have to kind of dig into the layer tables to actually like find out what the codes are, and then you need to add those. Okay, so that's a little bit of a hack there. But what that allows for is that public can actually select that the street light is cycling or it's not on at night, so on and so forth. And it ties it back to the codes that workforce is expecting to receive. And so that's the first part of the stitchery. So we have workforce that we've hung survey 1, 2, 3 off of on the front end. And then we push in, what's really important is we push in that the status is unassigned, right? So now we have moderation. Our dispatch basically can receive an assignment, and before it hits the field, she has a chance to look at it to make sure that somebody's kid's not pumping stuff into her forms just for fun, right? Okay. So the nice thing about that is we can use layer views, which you're aware of, layer views to basically create these views for the public. So when they're reporting now, they're not reporting the same issue. That happens a lot, right? People are like calling about the same issues. And so now when they do the reporting through the reporting form, they'll be able to know that something's already been reported. So we're going to save some calls doing that. And you'll see here on the right, we've modified the naming unassigned to received. That way the public knows like, oh yes, there's something here. So in this case, you know, SL, that's a street light, and it was reported on that date, okay? So web reporting, we're kind of tying the loop back now where they're actually seeing that things are being done now, okay? And again, all coming from the workforce layer, the assignments layer. Next, so that's great. So the public have a beautiful form that functions really well. There's intelligence in it. They can select the street light. It pre-populates the data, which I can actually show quickly here if we want. I said I wouldn't do live demo stuff, but anyways, this is what the form looks like when it's published. Okay, so it's cycling on and off, and then going to ask me if it will, and because I'm doing a demo, it's probably not going to work, but essentially, I just want to show you quickly here. Let's find some street lights. Right, so with the survey 1, 2, 3 connect, yeah, that intelligence gets published. Like you're able to do this stuff through the web form, which is really neat. So if you notice when I clicked on that light, right, it actually came up with address and other things, okay? So there's a streetlight number, there's the address. It saves the user typing, it creates more accuracy there. And then they can add their name if they want, okay? So when they submit that, what happens is, and maybe some of you are leveraging Power Automate. We've tried on and off, but with Survey 1, 2, 3, we've never had issues with Power Automate. And so we use Power Automate to create notifications, okay? And so the minute that the public submits a form, or our own staff submits a, hey, I noticed a street light out on the way in, right? Or a user calls and the customer service CSR types it in to this form, right? There's an email that Power Automate generates a notification. And the other stitchery that we had to do was we wanted to streamline for dispatch. They receive an email like, let's make their job easier by linking directly. And so it took us a little while, like it wasn't well documented, but basically hacking around at the URL, I was able to find out that you could link from Workforce into the Workforce app directly right into the assignment. And so now what you have is the dispatcher receives a report from the public. They get that email right away, right, if they're working during the day. And then they're able to open that assignment right away and go, okay, what's happening here? So I'm going to zoom into that. And the nice thing about hacking Workforce with Survey 1, 2, 3 Connect for us is these streetlights, they're actually 5-meter buffered zones. So that allows users to be able to click within a zone, and it's, you know, usually it catches that, right, based on some user testing. In these points here, those buffers, we actually have other things like service level agreement. So how many days can we take before it's repaired, right? So major arterial roads, for instance, or collectors or whatever highways, like they all have different service level agreements. And so that gets jacked in here. And with Connect, we're able to use that, right? So stitch that back in, calculate if it's a high priority or medium priority. Calculate the dates, like this is due in 7 days, not 10 days. include our IDs. These are asset IDs in our GIS. And then for the dispatcher, we actually include some of that public information, the contact information, so that they have all that information available. So the dispatcher only needs to use Workforce. They don't need to go into Survey 123, receive things or anything else, right? It's all done in Workforce. The intelligence is put in there. The due dates are already done. All she needs to do is review and say, yeah, I can assign this now, right? And that's it, okay? And so for us, the Stitchery that worked was, you know, we got the online form the way we wanted to. As a web designer, it's the nicest experience we can get with ArcGIS Online on forms that we found. And those submit using Power Automate. We can get the office using what they're already very comfortable with and staying in the one app for them. And then that gets dispatched to field. So what happens on the field side for us is, well, they do use Workforce, right? And if you're familiar with Workforce, you can app integrate. And so what we've done is we're, and maybe someone can help, we cannot get this linking properly directly into the field map on that particular item. But what's working, and the experience is okay for the staff, is you'll notice here, if you only create a link to the map without trying to establish the IDs, it opens the map and field map automatically. And using what's here, they're able to click on it and they're able to start editing the Workforce assignment directly, right? So we're making some changes in here. We're still tuning this, but we're going to eliminate canceled and some other things from the list for them. But these are Workforce fields. And so when they go in and they go to finish their work, right? When they're finishing it, they're actually closing the assignment in Workforce, okay? So why is this important? Right now I have it as canceled just as a test, but anyways, they'll do closed or rejected. Reject is a bigger issue. So why is that important for me, right? Is Workforce passing over to field maps, telling my field crews, don't forget, you know, sometimes you have to go back and close your Workforce. So they're hopping in and out of the apps. These are linesmen that climb poles. The last thing they want to do is be monkeying around on their devices and remembering to go in another app, right? And so that's why we had to create this workflow that was as seamless as possible, because we're trying to reduce the friction of our data getting sent to the field and coming back over to our dispatch and then reporting back up to the public to say it's been completed, right? And so the conclusion on this part, the no-code Stitchery stuff, is that we can really build a unified workflow with our ArcGIS suite of apps, right? That transforms activities and processes. Like this touches several departments, and this stuff will help feed reports that we have to get to the city and stuff like that, okay? But you need some sorcery, or I call it Stitchery in this case. You do have to find those hacks through it. And I've been hacking around for a long time. There's like probably a few dozen, all of you super smart people out there that have probably figured this out already. But for us, we wanted to share the story that we've settled into something that'll work just long enough for Esri to replace this all, because their Workforce is getting merged into field maps, which we're excited about. But we're unable to get answers from Esri right now. So you'll see posts on GeoNet where I'm like, what's the roadmap? When's this done? But in the meantime, this really works. And I'd love to show anybody that. So in conclusion, using the Esri apps to create a workflow from start to finish, it doesn't have to be game over. We're all working in the same limitations. And so you can spend a lot of time, you know, Googling and looking on GeoNet, but it's best to learn from each other. So find a no-code buddy. I'll be your no-code buddy. Let's grow around the problems, and guaranteed someone's done this better than I have. So please reach out to me and tell me like where I can improve that. Okay. All right. We're going to take a few questions, and then after that, there's going to be some polls. So any questions coming through?
Yeah, we have a question from Amy. And she says, at what point do you clear out your Workforce project? She was under the impression that it had a limit of 6,000 records. How many people do you have assigned in a single workforce project?
Right now, so this one here, we're just rolling out. So we're going to be doing testing in the innovation office. This is like just pre-MVP. The workforce app we use extensively on the GIS team, and there's a few field inspectors out there. We've never hit the 6K limit yet, but it's good to know that. So I'm going to write it down and look into that. When we roll this out, so we already have maybe 15 field maps users in the field right now, the crews, but the work's primarily being done by the lead, crew leaders they're called, which is around 9 people. Okay, so that's how many people will be getting the work assignments out in the field with the linesmen. We still call them linesmen here. Hope that answers your question. So next one was single biggest no-code challenge. What is my single biggest no-code challenge? I think it's for me, the challenge has been finding the app that works really well, but I'm always very constrained because there's one more thing I need to do with it, right? So I'll give you a really good example is, on the no-code side of things is like the survey 123 form, right? I need to do more with it. And so I can't use Web Designer, which has a great interface, and it has, you're able to design your maps to have snapping and other stuff. But you have to give up certain things to go and like find the solution. In this case, or you have to hack the database a little bit, or the feature layer, and then use Survey 123 Connect, which is powerful, but then I lose things on the map side. I find like I haven't figured that out. So the biggest challenge for me is time, like spending time trying to figure out what this is and which one's going to work, and then having abandoned it, trying something else, right? That's my biggest challenge. So my team isn't doing solutions, so I'm a manager. I report to the president, but yet I'm still doing solutions like this, and so my time is very limited to this. So next was, what else we got, Jordan?
Oh, yeah, we got some stuff. What devices are the end users using out in the field? Cell-enabled tablets, phones, or something else?
Yeah, so we've tried a lot of our entry into this world was about in 2019 when I started, and we got heavy into collector and then into field maps with inspections of our assets, because we have to inspect all assets every 3 years, right? Every single pole transformer. Our inspector, an older gentleman, everyone says, oh my, he's gonna have a hard time getting it. We tried tablets, he has a laptop, we tried everything. He settled into his phone. His phone was a really good experience. And so even with our crews, the phones seem to be the best. We're a mix of iOS and Android. So right now that's what we're using. My GIS technician has a SIM card in her Samsung Galaxy Tab 10-inch tablet. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. But the problem with the bigger tablets is when you have a big tablet and then you have a GNSS unit, and or you're out in the field and you're doing work. Our inspector didn't want big tablets, and I know the field crews don't want that either. So the phone works for them. Right. Okay.
So I'm going to combine these two questions. One
Sure.
is using ArcGIS Online for this, or ArcGIS Enterprise instead. And then that's combined with, what are your thoughts of implementing this in a portal environment with database reference layers and not hosted feature layers?
We'd love to. We're not. What we've landed on is, and this started for me in water wastewater, was we do cloud first data collection. And not everybody's going to be like, our authoritative data needs to be in our enterprise, right? We don't have, because of the way our electrical and our fiber distribution networks work, we don't have like a proper GIS. So it's very much controlled by this third-party software that tie into the Esri world. And so we have, because of that, we're kind of have the flexibility to leverage the power of ArcGIS Online. So we do have Portal, we do have ArcGIS Server, we do have Enterprise SD, which we're all upgrading. We're upgrading right now. But all of this stuff is being done for the data collection on ArcGIS Online. And we do pull our layers through a VPN on the phone, so that they, in their maps, they have our assets while they're out there. So, but yeah, we're not synchronizing at all at this stage. Okay, all right. I think that's it for stuff in there.
Thank you.
Amy, you find it interesting, so reach out to me and I'll walk you through it. I'll show. I didn't do demos. I didn't walk it through end to end, but I'll do that with anybody that's interested, because it's, you know, walking you through the form and then what happens in Power Automate, how it sends an email, and then all of those things that we're proud of figuring out. Would love to share that because it should help others. Okay, I think we were going to do a poll, right? Did you want me to trigger that? Let's see. Awesome.
It's launched.
Okay, so there's a poll for what I just talked about. Like, I want to know if anybody else is using the same pattern I just showed, which is like hack workforce basically, right? And add fields to front end it, or add fields on the back end for maintenance, right? For field maps. And yes, there's people out there doing it, so that's awesome. So sorry to bore you because you're like, yeah, this is what we live and breathe this all the time. So, but it's good to see. The next is poll is where we're going to be talking about next. So there's a little bit of time, and I want to talk to you about maturity stuff a bit. So we'll let those that poll come in for a bit. So interesting, there's 4 people that have replied that they're doing the same anti-pattern, I call it, the Stitchery, in your group. So if you can find out who the 4 are, then they can probably help you, right? You can take them out for lunch and they'll walk you through it on their laptop. So yeah. This you're not seeing 2 polls, they're all in one. Like the poll is question, there are 2 questions, sorry. 1 poll, 2 questions. Sorry to confuse you, Grant. So we'll give it another couple of minutes. Anybody else have a question while we're waiting?
And
It
as
looks like Sean in the chat was wondering where he could download Slim Gim from.
Oh, there's and I'll get into that. So we're going to talk about this next. So it was like question for what I just talked about and curious questions before I start, right? Do we collect photos? Yes. So workforce, we collect photos in workforce. Basically, we have GIS work assignments where we send people out to take pictures. So the crews really rely on pictures of our poles and other assets. And so when there's replacements or big capital projects like a line rebuild, we dispatch people to go out and take photos with workforce, and our GIS tech has written a script to grab those and stick them where they belong. We don't use Survey 123 at all, other than for this one public forum. And related tables, no, we're staying away from relationships as much as possible at the moment. You can just find me on GeoNet and you'll see my post about that. But there is some really, really interesting things that have come out, which is called a join view, which is really cool. So eventually, yes, we'll do more related things. Okay. No CMMS, no enterprise asset management. We're in the middle of evaluating now, so we're going to look at what we can do with CMMS and enterprise asset management starting next week. But I was involved in a CityWorks deployment in my municipality, so I know about that. Okay, let's close the poll off. I think I have the power to do it. Boom. Okay, so you should see results. I think that's how it works, Jordan. And do you still see my screen? I need someone to let me know because my screen's just
Yep,
got.
you can still see it.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna talk maturity. So someone asked about where do I get this Slim Jim thing. So what I want to talk about is like, how do you get strategic with enterprise maturity modeling? So, and what I call the maturity method. And this audience is for the managers now, or the people that are fighting to get a GIS coordinator in their organization because they know that they need it, right? And so you may have seen some of this posts I'm going to show on LinkedIn, but essentially the problem is CMMI, so Capability Maturity Modeling Index, is not enterprise maturity modeling. CMMI is usually very myopic, very paradigm focused, like GIS model specifically. Enterprise maturity modeling really looks at the full enterprise, the culture, its ability to innovate, the leadership. Are they literate? Like, does your leadership get it? Right? That kind of stuff. And so the other problem is, you know, a lot of people do some maturity modeling and then say, well, what do we do with the number? Like, you know, Jordan could do an assessment of HEB, for instance, and it's a 2. Well, what does a 2 mean? Right? What do you do with the number? And then the other thing is the big traditional GIS strategy type documents. Those things are dead. Like, GIS is changing so fast. Organizations are changing so fast. Like, just look at Microsoft and what they've done with AI in 1 year. Like, a big strategy just doesn't cut the mustard anymore, right? And so there has to be a better way, and that's what I want to talk about. I'm just checking the time really quick because this stuff I'm very passionate about, so I'll talk too much. But basically, working with a group of peers over almost a decade, we've fallen into this methodology, and what we do is we take an enterprise model, right? And we snap that into basically the kernels of good strategy, right? Like identifying your challenges and then creating effort, very focused effort on overcoming the challenges. And then bridging strategy and action. So we use objectives and key results, and guess what? We didn't develop it. We're just using a best practice that came out of Intel, Google, everybody's using this on their improvement side of things. And so we're like, why reinvent the wheel? We can take maturity results and do more by coming up with good strategy from that. And then how do we action it? Well, we'll just basically learn a new management practice, right? Which is OKRs. So what is the 3 keys to data-driven strategy? If for group of peers we've been working with, there's 3 things, right? So first is models. So this is what you could put metrics at the heart of your strategy now. And so it gives you the insights to really data drive and track your performance of your strategic effort. So it's not just measure where you're at, but target where you're going, right? And then being able to use the measures to really get really granular to show the performance of your strategy over time. And there's 2 models now. Well, there's several. There's one, it's translated to Arabic and other stuff, but the 2 main ones are the GIS model called Slim Jim, which was actually my master's thesis. And that's how this stuff started. The second one is Slim DNA. It came out of SM Energy in Denver, and they're probably in your region too. And that oil and gas company realized, like, hey, wait a second, the GIS stuff, if we change the GIS wording and turn it into data and analytics as a whole, right? Robotic process automation, visualization, then the model fits the entire program, right? Their GIS, their enterprise data, their BI side, and their integration side, and RPA side. So they co-created this model, and all we did is change the wording, and they added some data and analytics factors in it. So there's 2 models now, and they're full enterprise, okay? Just so you know. So the first key is get a good model. I'm not saying mine is the best model, but the peers like find it's very, very effective. The second thing is a method. Like, what is a method for you to walk through creating results? So you can read really good articles. Like, I'm a super fan of Matt Lewin. Nathan's on the horn today too, from New Zealand. Like, his work, I'm a big fan. But what happens often, like for instance, Matt Lewin's work, he has like domains and he has building blocks. But those things, how do you translate it? Like, how do you actually like measure some of this stuff? And so we can step that in there. If you have a method to really walk through the analysis, you should, and the maturity model, you should be able to get to the end result, which is like a data-driven strategy somehow, right? And to do that, we're doing it in cohorts. So again, I have a day job and I have to be very creative. And the most rewarding thing for me and the group has been time working together, working through the assessment, helping each other understand what the factors mean. And so what I've done is I flipped it into this network. It's just a mighty network, but it's called a maturity network. Okay. And we work together as cohorts. So I used to do every lunch a one-on-one. So Mondays were like, say, City of Hamilton. Then Tuesday was Salt Lake. And then Wednesday was, I can't remember, Thursday was Region Appeal. Friday was Agriculture Canada. And so we would meet every lunch, right? Well, from NASA, we'd meet every lunch, work through the method, refine the method, but they would get the results and they'd get their strategy, right? That's not an effective use of my time. And so we've been able to turn that into a way to basically treat it like as a course, right? So you get the spreadsheets and then you can walk your way through it, right? I have two really, really awesome Texans involved in it right now, the cohort, and they also happen to be in my pilot cohort. So Jordan and Jess Nooner, they're both involved, okay? So you'll see, oh, there's Jess. That's there, Jordan, right? Sorry, Jordan, I got your picture there, but you covered your eyes with your cool glasses. So this is basically what it looks like. So if you're on any other mighty network, this is just, you know, the maturity spin on it. And we just have a social space, and then we have like how to learn the method, okay? I won't go through all of it because, you know, I'm just hoping to get people interested for the future. But basically what it looks like is it breaks down. So you can learn this methodology, but you have the spreadsheet tools, right, to go through and start building your strategy as you go through it. And I was blessed to have some people involved that were really interested in learning this, applying it. And at the end of the day, they were willing to allow me to record it. So we have these over the shoulder. And so for every step in building your strategy based on the maturity model, Slim Jim and Slim DNA, you can watch a video of us being walking through the step. And Tracy was with the government of Ontario, Canada. So that was a really challenging organization to measure maturity on because it was so large. And then Tammy is with a small county in Peterborough, Ontario, and she's using the data and analytics model. And so it's really interesting to see that perspective in a county with a brand new program. Okay, so that's how it works. Is there's material, and I'm still working this out with the initial cohort to see like, okay, where can we go with this stuff? Okay, all right. So that's networks. I want to give you an example of an area that, excuse me, have been using this. So City of Hamilton has been using this all the way through since I started in like 2015, 16 with the model. So has Isabella. And Isabella is with Greater Salt Lake Municipal Service District, right? And I won't read these slides, but basically in 2020, she assessed herself at 2.7 level of maturity, which is basically like somewhere between departmental and corporate, like early stage planned, right? And she looked back at the previous year, which is the year before she joined, and she had, you know, the score was pretty low. So she was able to, since 2019 to 2020, she was able to boost her maturity. Using the method, she was able to target and say, you know what, I'm pretty sure through these objectives and key results I've built out in my roadmap, I'm pretty sure I can hit a 3.3, okay? 2021, she met her targets, okay? Repeated, remeasured herself, tweaked her objectives and key results. So now she has a new roadmap, okay? That's how strategy is in I say strategy is, and our group agree strategy should be. with the geospatial and the data analytics is like a cadence to an annual, a tweak and an adjust and a pivot, right? It allows you to do that. So 2021, she measured, right, 3.3, she targeted 3.5, and she was actually in 2022 when she measured, she hit the 4. She's the first person to hit a 4, which is enterprise level of maturity. And so going through the cycle again, she's able to say, okay, I think we can push it up to 4.3. So she's getting closer to an optimized state for her enterprise program. And so that she's a great example. If you notice here, there's a link. So you'll get these slides. And this link will take you right to the Salt Lake Municipal Service District hub site, which includes the roadmap, which is a Looker BI report. Okay, so here's some examples. So NASA, okay, you're going to notice something similar here. Okay, these are people's roadmaps. This is the government of Ontario, NASA's. This here is, it says BPX Energy, City of Barrie, right? So this is, I'm going to point out that's GIS. This is data and analytics. City of Hamilton, that's their GIS. And this is Salt Lake. This is their GIS, okay? And if you notice, they're all the same because they're using the same template. What's different is some of their narrative, like explaining what their challenges are. There's usually 3. And the other thing that's different is their strengths, weaknesses, their threats, and then how they're going to overcome their challenges. And so I think there's time if anybody's interested. Maybe I can show a quick report here. Sorry, I got 5,000 screens, it feels like today. So just finding the right one. Just bear with me. Pause recording. Kidding. Here we go. So it's one template. Looker is Google's BI tool. It used to be called Google Data Studio. So what we do is we have our magic spreadsheets that they go through these 5 steps to build out the strategy. And at the end of, once their roadmap's built with objectives and key results, it snaps it to this template, okay? So this here is Ontario. So they're still trying to socialize and get buy-in on their plan. This is Salt Lakes, for instance, right? And it's dynamic, so there might be a pause. Thanks, Jordan. Jordan just posted the link to Salt Lake, Greater Salt Lakes Municipal Service District's roadmap page. And I think there's a video on that one too. And so this is, again, a template. So roadmap. So this is an executive reporting tool too, right? So you notice these sections are executive report. She's 66% of her way through her roadmap for the year. She'll do another end of year Q4 report, and I guarantee you she'll have met her targets. So completed her roadmap. And inside of I won't go through the whole thing, but basically everybody uses the same template. And what happens is, this is where you really see the difference, right? Everybody has similar challenges, but in her case, it's governance, process, data practices, right? And she gets to talk about her strengths. In another organization, that page would look different. For instance, we'll look at this one quickly. So this is Ontario's draft. I just want to say that draft. So there's our vision, data management, culture change. Those are challenges. So the roadmap is being designed to overcome those main challenges. And there are numbers attached to it. There's targets attached to it, right? So I'll just show that quickly and then we can stop and take some questions because we're running out of time. But basically, this is how she's going to get from the previous, the current, and how she's going to get to her target state is she's going to work through these factors, right, to boost her maturity. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and start taking some more questions. If anybody has questions about maturity, I know I talked really quick on that, but it is a different approach to building strategic roadmaps. And I'm anxious to hear any questions you have on that.
We don't have any questions just quite yet. I'm sure that people are typing just as quick as their little fingers can type. Grant Garrison from Port of Houston Authority would like a copy of your PowerPoint. So just FYI, I've got his email here and I can give it to you.
Perfect. Hey, Grant. And there is a free model. One thing I didn't mention is like, you know, I'm struggling because I'm not in this for money. I need to get a little bit of revenue to keep the platform up and stuff like that, right? There is always going to be the Creative Commons free models, and that doesn't have all of those fancy spreadsheets and formulas and stuff that do the extended stuff that have the method in it. But you'll always have access to the free ones, right? So on Slim Jim info, the one that Jordan just posted, yes, there's access to something and links in there, but I'm morphing that into just straight up maturity.network and merging the mess of things I've spun up since 2014 around this maturity stuff. So yeah. So
there's a question from Sean. He said, does it work for an entire enterprise or can it be used for a department only?
I guess it depends on the context. It's geared for the enterprise because when you're doing the enterprise maturity model, Slim Jim and Slim DNA, you need to get outside your organization and you look in through 6 categories. Okay, so for instance, here I'll give you a quick example of that. Let's see here. Okay. And so what happens is the models are designed, all of our models have 6 main categories. So you go out and you look at the whole enterprise and you start at the very top. Like, how is your organization structured, right? What's your leadership like? Do they have data and analytics governance, for instance? Are they tracking the benefits, right? So that's their main category. And you look all the way down through all departments, okay? Corporate culture, right? This is the enterprise part of it. Process orientation. So this now you start getting into from the soft factors into the hard factors, which are things you can implement you can buy more people, right? All that kind of stuff. So the model is designed full enterprise holistic view, right? So you really understand what is impacting your data quality, right? What's impacting your ability to get to the enterprise level. If you're looking to measure just in a department, because you're trying to get that department to push up and be in enterprise, for instance, the province we work with on this, they are the de facto enterprise GIS division, but they didn't have the enterprise authority, right? And so they are kind of measuring a department, but holistically across to see how they can like get that true enterprise support on things instead of kind of an ad hoc approach to things. Did that answer your question?
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you so much, Paul, for sharing with us. We really appreciate your being here. And to everyone that attended, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, Paul, we have another question if you've got a minute or two to spare. It's from Jen Parmalee, and she was saying she would like to read more about the maturity product, the basics, the long narrative. Where can she find that?
This is where I do a terrible job, right? Because I work on the tools and I work with people all the time showing them how to do this. And so I've been doing a terrible job. But if you send me your email, right? So through this somehow, you got it on the first screen. Email me, find me on LinkedIn is best. I'll get you some material. So I do have stuff on Medium. But I just would rather just like show you some stuff, have the discussion, right? Because then it'll be more organic and like it could answer and speak to exactly what you're looking for. So yes, please reach out to me. That's the best way to do it. Okay. And thanks, Eurissa, for Texas for having me.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.